The Hunchback of Notre Dame is the Disney Renaissance film that I have seen the least. I could review all the other ones without ever sitting down to watch them because I've seen them so many times, they're still burned into my memory. But I had to watch this one again because I had only seen this one twice, and that was 13 years ago. I honestly couldn't remember a single thing about this one, and that isn't because I hated it. It's because it honestly didn't leave that much of an impression on me one way or the other. The only thing I did remember about this is that it just kind of left me cold. This is the story of a deformed baby whose mother was killed in a villain's pursuit. The villain Frollo took him under pain of his immortal soul and tucked him away in the bell tower where he has lived all of his life. In all that time, Quasimodo has looked down on the city and dreamed of being a part of it, and of being accepted. At first, this is what the film is all about, Quasimodo trying to leave the tower and join the world, and the world ultimately rejecting him. But after that, this film takes a turn that I'm not sure was a good move for it. After the first act or so, the movie really stops being about Quasimodo in any appreciable way. There are two other characters named Esmeralda and Phoebus who take over almost entirely, and Quasimodo and what he wants gets pushed further and further into the background. Phoebus is a new captain of the guard who sees how terribly Frollo treats the local gypsies, and he tries to help them out without losing his head in the process. And Esmeralda becomes the symbol of Frollo's obsession, and he nearly burns down all of Paris for her. Those two storylines become the primary focus of this film, and there aren't many places to put Quasimodo in all of that. In fact, in the last two-thirds of the story, Quasimodo almost becomes a tertiary character. He helps out in one or two minor ways, but you never feel like he is the star of the show anymore. If you imagine that he's the sidekick in this film, it doesn't feel like that much of a stretch. We reach a point very early in this film where it just isn't about him anymore, and we quickly lose track of exactly what we're supposed to care about in all of this. To add to that problem is the fact that Quasimodo himself is not that interesting a character, and the reason is that we simply feel sorry for him more than we actually like him. He's a guy who has been locked up in a bell tower his whole life. You remove that circumstance and only focus on Quasimodo as a person, and he is the most uninteresting, one-dimensional person you could ever hope to meet. It's only because we flat out pity him that we feel anything for him. Compare Quasimodo to any of the main characters in the other Disney films. I'll go ahead and pick one at random, Aladdin. We feel sympathy for Aladdin's circumstances, sure, but he's also his own person, and he makes the most of what he has. Quasimodo really isn't much more than his circumstances, and the only reason we care about him is because we feel bad for him. Which brings me to possibly my most overall problem with this film. Disney has had a tradition of taking classic fables and stories and retelling them in their own way, but I'm not sure that The Hunchback of Notre Dame was a good choice for one of these. I have never read The Hunchback of Notre Dame, but am familiar enough with the story to know that it's a melodrama, and that really shows in this film. It's also, in my opinion, what brings the film down. Hunchback has the opposite problem of Hercules. It's too serious. We just don't spend enough time in this film feeling good or having fun. The name of the game in Hunchback is pathos, pathos, pathos. Everything is on this somber note that is meant to appeal to our sympathies, and that makes watching this film one of the more unpleasant experiences in the Disney lineup. We do have the three gargoyle characters as comic relief, and we need them, because the moments that we feel anything fun or magical are few and far between. Now, making a darker, more serious film is not automatically bad, but that combined with the character problems and almost directionless storyline makes Hunchback a problematic entry into the Renaissance-era films. I had said in Pocahontas that Disney felt they were being undone by their own quality and standards, and as many negative things as I've said about this film, Hunchback really did demonstrate that. By the time of this film's release, Disney really was being pigeonholed. They tried to do something different with this film, and they had people saying that it was too different from their formula, whereas they tried to remain true to the formula in Pocahontas, and that had everyone saying it was too true to the formula. Disney had been put in a position where they just couldn't win, and I think my own comments about this film demonstrate that. But while I can appreciate that predicament, it doesn't change this movie's shortcomings. The Hunchback of Notre Dame is not a bad film, but I find it to be the least of the Renaissance films. An admirable attempt to break out of the box, but it only serves as a reminder to me of just how good the box was when done well.